Welcome to NX University. My name is Colin. I'm a CAM engineer at Swoosh Technologies. This next session will be hosted by John Vincent. He's also a CAM engineer at Swoosh. In this session, John will be comparing the functionality of the new Post Configurator versus the old Post Builder. Following the Post Configurator versus Post Builder session, there will be office hours where John will answer any questions you have about Post Configurator. Enjoy!
Hello, welcome to this session covering the difference between Post Configurator and Post Builder. During this session, we're just going to kind of compare and contrast the differences between these two post building tools. Post Builder is the existing tool that's been around for quite some time, and Post Configurator has been around for a good number of years now. But I think people are kind of slowly starting to adopt it, and it is now the primary method for all post building coming direct from Siemens. If you go on Post Hub, any of the post processors that you can download on Post Hub are in fact created in Post Configurator. So it's important to know just on the surface here, there's a lot of similarities between the two tools, and all the underlying architectures really the same. It's the same MOM architecture. It's still based on all TCL code. Just kind of how we use the code and how we approach building our posts is a little bit different in Post Configurator. So here's our brief agenda that we're going to look at. I'm just going to review the interface, user interface, and talk about some of the kind of high-level topics. How do we specify machine kinematics? Where's our definition file being, all the settings being created for our different blocks and different words and things like that, as well as UDEs, our user-defined events. And, in Post Builder, of course, we have a UDE editor, and we have the same or similar concept here inside of Post Configurator. We'll then look at I'm calling it blocks versus buffers, but really the approach on how we change our output between the two software packages. In Post Builder, we tend to reorder blocks, create new blocks, and do a little bit more hands-on editing with these details. In Post Configurator, we're going to introduce something called buffers that you may not be aware of. And what buffers are is essentially a way to modify where blocks are being output within an event. Then we'll move on to customization topics and how we can use custom commands in Post Builder, and we still have the same structure where you can write custom commands and things like that, but we're going to work in a little bit different manner. Instead of having a series of many different custom commands, we tend to work in layers, and what we like to have is what we call maybe a community layer for our post, where we can make our own personal changes, but you can certainly have multiple layers in a post. It's easier to reuse some data. So we'll dive into that and see what that looks like. And then we'll touch on debugging your post. Once you get into Post Builder and Post Configurator, a lot of times we need to find variables. We need to test where commands are going to be output or where code's going to be output, things like that. So we'll look at some of the different debugging tools we have at our disposal. Okay, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time in looking at slides here. We're just going to kind of dive right into the two different softwares. So on the left-hand side of my screen, we have Post Builder, that many of you may be aware of. And on the right-hand side, we have Post Configurator. So the first difference we see is Post Builder, completely separate application that you launch outside of NX. And Post Configurator is ran from within NX. Just two little different approaches there. We'll get into a little bit of some of the benefits here and things that I like about Post Configurator being embedded into NX here as we go through some of these topics. But right now, I'm just going to kind of review some of the layout of the user interface in Post Builder. On the very first tab here, we have our machine tool data. Now it should be noted that I created a new post in this example. I'm just using a 3-axis FANUC-based post. And so you can see that we have a 3-axis mill, and under our general parameters tab, we can come in and specify things like our linear travels, home position, max traversal feed rates, initial spindle position. Do you want to have diameter programming for different axes versus just radial programming, mirroring outputs, things like that. Some basic settings here. Now when we jump to the post configurator side, you just create a post. In this case, I specified that, it's going to be a FANUC-based control. But as for all the generic machine kinematic things, the various settings and parameters here, as we come down to the real machine kinematics, we can see that we can choose between different machine types and or different machine modes, milling, turning, EDM, mill turns, or machine types, different number of axes, different configurations. So, difference between Post Builder and Post Configurator, you can change your machine types after the post has been created. In Post Builder, you could not do that, or I should say, you cannot do that easily. You could write custom commands to go in and change some variables about what machine types you're running, but not an easy way to do it. Here, anytime you can change and say, yep, let's create this as a 4-axis. With a rotating head instead of a 3-axis machine. You can change it at any point in time. So you'll see that there's still 4-axis and 5-axis information in here. And actually, in future releases, and it is possible now, but we can have our dialogues be updated based on our selections. So when I select 3-axis mill, I could have these 4-axis and 5-axis parameters no longer be visible in my post configurator session, so we wouldn't have any additional confusion, things like that. And similar to Post Builder, we can still specify our home positions and different kinematic features. If we were in multi-axis machines, we could of course specify, are we looking at A, B, or C rotaries? Are they head? Are they table settings? Any number of combinations for our machine tools. All right, so that's the basic kinematic structure information. Next, let's look at our NC data definitions. In Post Builder, we have an NC data definition tab, and you can see we have a list of all of our blocks on the left-hand side that are used throughout our post. And inside of these blocks, there's various words. And again, we can go to our Word tab to see all the different words that we have created. And lastly, we have a Format tab. So every word has a format. Every block has one or more words assigned to it. In Post Configurator, we can come down to the Actions group and specify or select our definition file editor. And inside of here, so let me resize my window a little bit. Kind of I would say, more user-friendly appearance. We can see our blocks are all on the left-hand side, words are in the center, and our format information is on the right-hand side. So instead of toggling through between the multiple tabs in Post Builder, everything for one block is then visible to us at one time. So in this instance, if I wanted to come and look at cycle drill, I could look in Post Builder. I could select cycle drill. We see the words that are entered in that block. Likewise, we see the same or similar information here in Post Builder, but we don't see format information right now. in Post Builder, but here in Post Configurator, we can see that anytime I select a word, the format settings are being displayed on the right-hand side. A little bit more user-friendly, in my opinion anyhow, that you can see all this information kind of in one location, as well as get your preview of how it's going to be output in any block in your post, in your posted code. So that's a high-level overview of the file definition editor. We are now going to take a look at the, let me pull this file over here, let me get this out of the way, UDEs. All right, inside of Post Builder, we can click on the Machine Control tab inside of Program, and we'll see, ooh, I don't think I have the UDE editor enabled here. Let's do this again. I'll go ahead and start a new post right now. I bet that's why. Here, library. Okay, I have my machine tool set. I have my UDE editor enabled. And I'll say OK. And now, when I come to machine control, I can see a lot of the default settings, you know, certain things, cooling on, cooling off, a lot of these out-of-the-box commands. But now I can also see all my user-defined events that are created, as well as I could right-click in the kind of green space here and create a new machine control event or a new user-defined event. Let me drag that over to my other monitor. And you could come up with a new event here. We'll say UDE test, UDE underscore test. Okay, and you have your graphic interface for creating new user-defined events for triggering any kind of commands or action you want the post to take at some given point. So the similar functionality in Post Configurator is here under the user-defined event editor. So likewise, with all of the commands that we saw or UDEs that were available in Post Builder, cooling on, cooling off, all of these things, we can see that some of these are locked and we can't edit these right now. But we can, of course, come down and add new events, just like we did in Post Builder. And we'll say our new event is going to be UDE test PC. And we can enter in our more information. You can specify other post events. You can come in, add extra descriptions, link to a URL if you want to have some additional information about the UDE. You know, maybe put a PDF document that you could reference for certain things. And then you can come through and build your user-defined event using the different types and groups and IDs the same way you would do it in Post Builder. It's very, very similar. So I don't think there's anything too different between those two aspects of Post Builder and Post Configurator. I just wanted to show those at a high level. What I want to get into a little bit more here is going to go through, post out some code, show how we can edit our output in both Post Builder and Post Configurator. All right, so I'm going to close this post and let me open up. Here we go. All right, so let me just go ahead and resize my windows, clean this up a little bit. All right. Now in this session of NX, I just have one of the out-of-the-box sample parts here. I'm going to go ahead and just post using these two posts. Here's my FANUC Post Builder post. And I'll post using the post configurator post. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the code between these two. Let me just open these with Notepad and do a little comparison. All right, so we have our post configurator post output on the left-hand side and our post builder code on the right-hand side. So we see a lot of things look pretty similar. There's definitely some differences here. The out-of-the-box post for post builder is using a lot of things like G28s for going home. Here we're seeing G30's additional home positions. Kind of some unnecessary things. Out of the box in post configurator, instead of using G28 for going home, we're going to be referencing the machine coordinate system via G53. And all of this is very easily customizable in post configurator. You could certainly use G28. There's no problem with that either. Just pointing out some of the different out of the box features. And in this case, we'll see we have, on post configurator, we have an out-of-the-box note here, single range. That's our operation name. We're also getting a tool name in this little header. In post builder, we're only getting the operation name. So let's just go in and look at what it takes to do a little bit of modifications to our output. I'm going to go ahead and just minimize that. That code right now. And let's do this one more time. I'm going to go ahead and post from my post builder post processor right now. And again, just to look at this, I have single range is my operation name, and I have a blank above and below it. If we go and look at our post builder post, and we're going to have to start walking through some of the different program sections. In this case, we're going to be looking at our operation start sequence. We can come down and we can see I have a couple blocks here that are just blank lines. That's showing where these two blank lines are coming in. And in the operator message here, we're outputting the variable mom operation name. And that's giving us the name from our operation, in this case, single range. If I wanted to change any information here, maybe I want to get rid of these two blank lines that we're seeing in our output. I could certainly do that just by deleting the blocks. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I could delete these blocks. And I can save the post. And let's post the code again. Alright, we don't have those blank lines anymore. If we wanted to change this name to include some tool information, I could edit this operator message. And sorry, these keep going to my other monitor. And I could put in something, another variable here, and say, let's look for mom tool name. And save and post again. Okay, so you can see I have my operation name and I have my tool name in here. So that's easy enough to make changes. But if I want to go back and maybe add those blocks again, I have to go and create those new blocks or go and find them. Here's a kind of a list of a bunch of different post builder commands and different blocks that have been created. Not really the most user-friendly way to operate there. So I just want to show how we can do similar things, similar changes in post configurator. So again, let's grab our post configurator post. I'll put some code. And post configurator, you'll see that there's a lot of extra notes, things like tool list, operation list. These do not get output into the code. They're just information for us at this point. But let's go through and look at the code here. We have these couple blank lines And again, we have some different name and tool information in here. So this is going to kind of start going into working with layers and procedures inside of Post Configurator. So I'm going to start by launching Post Configurator and opening up my FANUC post. And the first thing I want to do, again, maybe jumping ahead in the lesson a little bit, is look at our debugging tool. Inside of Post Configurator, and I'm going to expand my window, since we are running Post Configurator from NX, we can go ahead and turn on our inspect tool, and we can actually post code right from Post Configurator. So now that I'll post this operation that I have selected, we'll see that the code is all the same if we started investigating it, because we haven't changed anything yet. But by having the inspect tool on, I get these results. And in here, I can see things like buffer IDs, where what event is this line attached to, and what is the buffer ID. I can double click on this single line. I thought that took me to buffer events, but it doesn't. But here we can see, in this case, we have a buffer, this lib_spf operation header comment, and we can see the 3 lines that exist inside of this buffer. And as I'm clicking on these, we can see that we have some buffer tag information. Tags are kind of the tool that we use to set the order of how these operations are going to be output. So in this case, what I want to do is copy this buffer information, and in this case, I want to get rid of those 2 blank lines. And if I click on a blank line, I can see that it's going to be a buffer tag of new line 1 and new line 2. So what I'm going to choose to do here is use the buffer command remove, and I'll say new line 1, and I can copy to clipboard. But before I do that, I want to jump back into Post Configurator and set something else up here. I want to add a layer to my post. So I'm going to come to this layer manager, and I'll just say add new layer. And here I'll say community. I'll create a directory. I don't need a definition file. I just really want to create the TCL file here. So I'll say OK and OK. And down here in this pull-down menu, you can see we have this service layer that has some of the out-of-the-box Post Configurator information in it. But now I have my community layer. This is where I'm going to make my TCL changes. And Siemens has a standard format that you can use. You certainly don't have to. Just a good way of organizing information. So this is my community layer. I just pasted this information in. And again, I'm going to do certain things. I have areas specified for global variables, for modifying buffers, adding procedures, so on and so forth here. So now in my inspect tool, I'm going to go ahead and copy this buffer command. And I'll come to my section where I'm going to modify my buffers. And I'm going to enter this, I'm just pasting this command in here. And so this is going to go ahead and say, whenever it encounters this buffer, go ahead and remove this line, this header comment with the tag new line 1. I'm actually going to paste this in twice, and I'll just change to new line 2. I'll say OK. I'll save this, and I'll go ahead and post out again. And again, I get my inspect tool. That'll populate every time I run the post, anytime I run the post processor. And look, we can see in our NC output, I don't have those 2 blank lines any longer. And if I go to my buffer events, yeah, we can see that those, in fact, were skipped this time. And now maybe I want to change this. Maybe I want to go back to having the output where it's just showing the operation name and the tool name. I don't actually want it to say tool. Again, I can edit this buffer, and this time I'm going to replace my info line. That's the buffer for this piece of information. So I'll go ahead and copy, and I'll edit my community layer again. And I'll just add this information. But now we need to add some code. We need to call a procedure and tell PostConfigurator what do we want to replace this information with. I don't want to output single range, comma, tool, and the tool number. So I'm going to have to create my own procedure. So I'm going to work in my procedure section here. Actually, maybe first I'll say, what am I going to call this? Operation name. Operation info. All right, and I'm going to start a new procedure. I can just start typing new procedure. And here you'll see we can have some autofill features. I'll just start a new proc. And this kind of sets all the settings for kind of just the format information. And now I can call my procedure name that I created. And I'll go through and just say output. I'll do an output literal. And say operation name and tool name. And I need to come back in here and global these. And let's see. Say OK. And we'll post this out again. Oh, we have an error. Let's go look in our log file. Invalid command name. Let's look back in our community layer here. I'm just going to get rid of that tag for right now. Operation info, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Bear with me one moment. Info line. Okay. So we're saying mom operation name info. Let's add this tag back in. There we go. Because I added remove that tag. And now let's see. Let's take a look at our code. If we get rid of that. Yep, we got rid of that tool. So we can change the output, replacing blocks. But the nice thing is, if I want to change that behavior, go back to the default. I didn't delete anything. I didn't do any permanent changes. I could certainly come in here and just comment out lines in where I'm modifying my buffers. So it's never going to call these other procedures or anything like that. Just a little bit more of a flexible way to work with Post Builder and Post Configurator. Okay, so we saw the debugging tool, how we're able to go through and look at our different NC output. Inside of here we can see all of our different variables, very similar to what you would do in Post Builder. And I just want to briefly show for maybe anybody that's not aware of how this works in Post Builder. And this still works for Post Configurator. If I want to post out my, using my Post Builder post, I can turn on my review tool. And like I said, you can still do this in Post Configurator. And say OK. Oh, let's see, it popped up on my other window. And you can go through and see through each event what's going on, what variables are listed, what code is being output from that event. So this behavior is the same. And again, because it's all the same underlying MOM architecture, we can do this same kind of information from Post Builder and Post Configurator. So I'll just go through and post out one more time with Post Configurator. Leaving my review tool turned on. It should be noted that the inspect tool will only give you results when you're working in Post Builder. When you're working in Post Configurator. If you don't have Post Configurator open, you will not get that inspect tool to populate. And here we can see, yeah, we get the same type of information based on our Post Configurator event. Okay, so I think that is kind of a wrap for Post Configurator. Again, we went through the user interface. We edited some blocks and buffers in both Post Builder and Post Configurator. We looked at, if you're used to working with custom commands, how you can create procedures and overwrite settings inside of Post Configurator using this layer approach. And we touched on debugging your post processors, kind of at a high level right here. But I think this was a good introductory to the differences and similarities between Post Builder and Post Configurator. I hope you enjoyed. Take care. Bye.